It was supposed to be a fun detour. Madison Blake, a 22-year-old film student from Portland, was always the planner. She found the hostel online, a charming, wood-framed inn just off the highway near a quiet Oregon town called Elmridge. "Let's just crash there one night," she told her two best friends, Zoe Ramirez and Claire West, during their spring break road trip. "Then we hit the coast tomorrow." The photos showed cozy rooms, antique furniture, and a big wraparound porch. Sure, it looked a little old, but it was cheap, had good reviews, and it was available. They arrived just before sunset. The hostel stood alone, surrounded by tall pine trees with no neighbors in sight. A wooden sign hung above the creaking front steps. Elmridge Hostel, established 1908. Inside, it was even quieter. The air smelled like dust and lavender. Behind the front desk stood a thin, pale man with sunken eyes and a polite but strained smile. "Room 3?" he asked, already holding the key. Madison nodded, a little surprised. "Yeah, how did you—" "I keep track," the man replied. "Not many guests this time of year." The hallway was dim. The floorboards groaned beneath their feet. The room itself was simple: 2 beds, an old mirror, peeling wallpaper, and a tall wooden wardrobe in the corner that looked older than the building itself. "Spooky," Zoe joked, throwing her backpack down. Claire didn't laugh. She stared at the wardrobe. Did that thing just move? Their final TikTok was posted at 11:12 p.m. All 3 girls laughing, spinning around the hallway in pajamas, captioned, "If we disappear tonight, it was the creepy wardrobe, LOL." No one heard from them again. At exactly 6:45 a.m., the sun crept through the pine trees surrounding the Elmridge Hostel. Light spilled across the check-in desk, the faded carpets, and the narrow staircase. But room 3 remained silent. Too silent. No footsteps, no door opening, no checkout. By 11 a.m., the front desk bell hadn't rung. At 12:26 p.m., a guest in room 5, an older man traveling through Oregon, knocked on the manager's door. "Hey, the girls who checked in last night, are they still around?" he asked. "I heard them laughing all night. Now it's dead quiet." Mr. Horner, the pale manager, replied calmly, "They checked out early." Before sunrise, the man frowned. "Strange, I never heard the front door open." Horner didn't answer. He just smiled, locked his office, and disappeared inside. Back in Portland, Madison's mother, Angela Blake, texted her daughter around noon. "Morning, sweetheart. Let me know when you girls get on the road. Love you." The message was marked as delivered, but never read. Angela tried again that evening, and again at night. When Claire's dad tried to call, the phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. Zoe's Snapchat location had stopped updating. None of the girls had posted anything since the TikTok. By the 3rd day, the parents filed missing persons reports. Elmridge PD conducted a routine search. No blood, no signs of forced entry, no broken locks. Their room was clean, too clean. The only thing left behind, a single white shoelace on the floor of the wardrobe. No phones, no bags, no trace. Mr. Horner simply repeated his story. "They left early. I saw them walk out. That's all I know." But something in his voice didn't sound quite right. The fall rains came early that year in Oregon. By late September, the small town of Elmridge had mostly forgotten about the 3 girls. There were no new leads, no evidence, and no arrests. Just cold files, faded flyers, and grieving families spread across the state. But not everyone forgot. Angela Blake, Madison's mother, had stopped sleeping. Her living room looked like a detective's office: maps, pins, timelines. She'd driven to Elmridge 5 times, handed out photos, questioned locals, recorded phone calls. Something's wrong with that place, she kept saying. Police dismissed her. The hostel was private property, no signs of foul play. The case was inactive. That changed on October 4th. A young couple, Jared and Lila Moore, checked into Elmridge Hostel. They were passing through on their way to the coast. Room 1 was musty but cheap. They didn't mind. Until 2:17 a.m., when Lila woke up choking on the smell. It was like rotted metal. They searched the room, trying to find the source. That's when Jared pulled the dresser away from the wall and found a small metal grate screwed into the wooden floor. From inside the vent came something they never expected, a faint scratching sound, and something else, a pink bracelet, stuck between the grating and the floorboards. They called the police. This time, someone listened. Detectives returned to Elmridge Hostel with a warrant. Mr. Horner was nowhere to be found. They searched the building again, top to bottom, every room, every drawer. In the basement, behind a warped bookcase, they found it, a closet door bolted shut from the outside. The wood was old. The bolts were rusted. No one could remember ever seeing it before. When they forced it open, the smell hit them first. Stale, sickly, sour. Then they saw what was inside. 3 backpacks, a cracked iPhone, Zoe's denim jacket, Claire's journal, half burned, a pair of shoes lined neatly on the floor, a camera with one photo still in the reel, and on the back wall of the closet. Something had been scratched into the wood. Words. He said we weren't real. He said we were just a dream he keeps having. But we bleed, we scream, and we're still here. The camera was old school, a disposable Kodak with a half-used roll. The lead detective, Sergeant Diane Keller, hadn't seen one in years. She turned it over carefully, checking for damage. The lens was cracked, but the film inside was intact. They rushed it to the state lab in Salem. Within 48 hours, the photos were processed. Out of 13 exposures, only one wasn't ruined by light damage. It was dim, blurry, but it showed enough. 3 girls in a small windowless space, eyes wide, faces pale, crouched on the floor. Zoe in the middle, Claire hugging her knees, Madison holding up a shaky middle finger to the lens, half laughing, half crying. Behind them, in the shadows, a figure, male, tall, barefoot, wearing what looked like a hotel bathrobe, but his face was turned away. Back in Elmridge, the story exploded across local news. Breakthrough in hostel disappearance. Closet discovery may hold answers. Angela Blake didn't wait for an official update. She drove to Elmridge the same day. When she arrived, yellow tape still surrounded the hostel. Officers refused to let her enter, but she didn't care. She just stood at the front gate, staring at the second floor. Room 3, the window was open. Curtains moved slightly in the wind. Angela could swear. Someone was looking back. 2 days later, something stranger happened. At 3:11 a.m., a 911 call came in from an abandoned hunting cabin 14 miles outside Elmridge. A man's voice, trembling. "She's here!" She won't stop crying. She's covered in dirt. She doesn't remember anything. I think it's one of the missing girls. When officers arrived, they found a girl curled up under a torn sleeping bag, hair matted, hands shaking, wearing Claire's necklace. She looked up, blinking in the flashlight beam. "Is he gone?" she whispered. "The man in the mirror. Is he still inside me?" She sat in a hospital bed at Riverside Memorial, under heavy sedation. Doctors said she was dehydrated, bruised, and in a deep state of dissociation. No ID, no phone, no clear memories. But she knew one thing. Her name was Claire West. Angela Blake stood just outside the glass observation room, staring in. "She was Madison's best friend," she whispered. "If she's alive, Then maybe, Sergeant Keller interrupted gently. She says her name is Claire, but we're still running DNA. Inside the room, Claire stared blankly at the wall. That night, around 2:17 a.m., nurses heard screaming from her room. When they rushed in, Claire was pressed against the corner, eyes wide, shaking violently. "Don't let him in! Don't let him in the mirror," she whispered. "He climbs out when the light goes out." There were no mirrors in the room, just the reflective surface of the turned-off TV. A nurse glanced at the screen, and for a split second thought she saw two faces, Claire's and a man's behind her, watching. The next day, Claire asked for a notebook. She filled 4 pages with disjointed sentences. Room didn't end where the walls did. Madison kept singing to drown him out. Zoe saw his hands before anyone else did. The mirror is not a reflection, it's a door. He keeps dreaming us into silence. We bleed, but he never stops smiling. Then she wrote one full sentence in bold across the bottom of the last page. "I'm not the first Claire to come back." Detectives pulled every missing persons file from Elmridge in the last 40 years. They found 2 more girls reported missing from that same hostel, Lila Dawes, 1984, Stephanie Cruz, 1997. Both vanished without a trace, both were 22, both stayed in room 3, and both had an eerie similarity in appearance to Claire West. What would you like next for part 6? Claire escapes the hospital? They reopen room 3 with cameras inside? Or the real Madison returns? But something is wrong with her. Let me know. It was November 12th, almost exactly 7 months since the girls had vanished. Under growing media pressure and a direct order from the state, Elmridge PD reopened the hostel for a full forensic sweep. This time they brought everything: infrared scanners, cadaver dogs, surveillance drones, and cameras, hidden and visible, placed in every room. At 9:33 p.m., Sergeant Keller unlocked room 3. It smelled like time had rotted inside it. The beds were stripped. The wardrobe stood open. Dust covered every surface except for one: the mirror. Clean, polished, untouched. It sat above the old dresser, tilted slightly downward, and somehow it seemed to hum. The officers set up 24-hour video monitoring with a static camera pointed directly at the mirror. Nothing happened the first night, or the second, until night 3, 3:12 a.m. On the footage, static flickers for less than a second, then movement, a blur, a shadow. And for just a frame, the reflection shows a girl, not standing in front of the mirror, but behind the glass, as if trapped inside. She bangs once, twice, then disappears. And the camera cuts out completely. The next morning, the officers reviewing the footage hear a knock behind them in the viewing room. 3 slow, rhythmic knocks. They turn. No one's there. Claire is drawing again. Over and over she sketches the same image: a tall man, faceless, holding a mirror like a shield. Behind him, girls reaching out, pressed against glass. But then she draws something new: a girl, curled up in a closet, wearing a jacket that isn't hers. And above the drawing, Claire writes, "She's not gone, but if you open the mirror, he comes with her." Now that room 3 is live and Claire's warnings are growing darker, are you ready for the final part? Want it to end with a rescue, a twist, or something disturbing and unresolved? You decide. 2 weeks after room 3 was reopened, the footage changed everything. On the night of November 27th, at exactly 3:12 a.m., the static returned, but this time it didn't vanish. Instead, the screen stayed black and white, grainy, flickering like an old VHS tape. And then The mirror lit up. The reflection in the room didn't match reality. On camera, the room looked clean, the beds made, the wallpaper new. And in the mirror, 3 girls stood together. Zoe, Madison, Claire, smiling, frozen, like wax dolls. But in real life, room 3 was still empty. Back in the hospital, Claire sat up straight in her bed at the exact same moment, her eyes wide, breathing shallow. She whispered, "She's coming back," then collapsed into a seizure. The next morning, a hiker near Elmridge stumbled onto a barefoot young woman walking along the roadside, disoriented, barely speaking. At first, she couldn't remember her name. Then, under sedation, she whispered, "Madison Blake." She was covered in bruises, her hands scratched raw. No memory of how she escaped. Just repeating the same phrase over and over. It wasn't a dream for him. It became a dream because of us. When police showed her a mirror, she screamed so violently they had to sedate her again. Investigators reviewed the camera footage again, frame by frame, of the moment Madison returned. At 3:12:44 a.m., just before the mirror flickered out, only 2 girls remained inside the reflection, Claire, Zoe, and one more thing, a shape behind them, taller, smiling, growing clearer. The Elmridge hostel has since been boarded up, room 3 sealed with concrete, but every year on April 17th someone leaves a pink bracelet on the steps. No note, no footprints, just 3 knocks on the door, and silence.